Thank you for inviting me. I am Juho Vepsäläinen, and let's say during last year I kind of figured out that if you can code a little bit and if you can write a little bit, you can write technical books. I'll get back to that later. And basically these days I do three things. I write, I code, I get frustrated by JavaScript. So now I'm kind of looking at the future of JavaScript and where we might be going with it. Because for me it's very important to kind of understand what's worth kind of investing in. Because if you're writing for money, it's good to write about right things. So, and of course, you know, this guy, he spent 10 days in 95, wrote the first version, and it kind of went from there. So we had this Mocha, and then we got, I think it was something else, and then we got JavaScript, because Java was the big thing. So JavaScript, good marketing. And these days you can find it everywhere. So it's like if you are not using JavaScript, you are doing something wrong. And of course it's like if you look at GitHub projects and Stack Overflow, it's very popular. So it's like JavaScript, PHP, and those are like the most popular languages at the moment. And it's interesting to notice that we have TypeScript, which is, let's say, it compiles to JavaScript, but it's stronger in certain ways. And of course, we can see this in jobs. We have this framework Angular.js, which is like super popular, and you can see the Angular 2 dip. So, but of course, the thing is, managers kind of figure out that, yeah, this is the big thing, let's invest. So we have React, the blue one, let's say 3 years forward, and it's going to go like, so at least I hope so. This is kind of telling. We have NPM, the yellow. So it has kind of exploded. 2012, it was like 0. And then we have this geometric growth. So 10 years and we have 1 million packages. And it's crazy, just crazy to think. But this isn't all. I mean, just to help you understand why this situation is like this, is that it's this easy to create new packages. So you kind of figure out new name, because there's big namespace. You have to figure out unique name. You type it in, and then you follow instructions. New package, yay! So very easy. Just some statistics on NPM. This is from a couple of years ago, but we have had like about 100,000 packages, and only half had tests. So it's not that great. At the moment, out of 230,000 packages, around half have README license and repository data. So this tells something about quality. So there's a lot of, let's say, good. And out of these packages, around 100,000 has seen action. So there are some really old ones. And of course food. I mean, it's like Swedish for food, so food for thought. I think there's like 30,000 packages worth using. So you have a lot of something you will ever touch. So this is kind of, if you have 200,000 packages and you have only like, let's say 10% worth using, it's not a lot. So at the moment we have like situation where we value quantity over quality perhaps. And I don't know if it's really a good idea to kind of let people publish anything, but that's the way it goes. I mean, it's quite telling that a while ago we got scopes. So what you can do is you have like username / package, but I think it came to NPM too late. So now everyone pushes their stuff to roots namespace, and it's kind of full. So it's getting harder and harder to find free names. I think there's certain kind of need for creation. We need better means for figuring out what packages to use, which ones are valuable and which are not. We have Node security project, which helps you to kind of, they give you command terminal tool that allows you to check your project, and it shows you possible security issues. So why don't we have Node quality project? Because it will be useful if we had more understanding about the quality of the dependencies we are using. And this is kind of worrying for me, because a couple of years ago we had like 6 mirrors, and as far as I understand we have only 1 now. So they kind of disappeared. And at the moment it's someone's business. So we have NPM Inc. And it's kind of their responsibility to make sure that everything works. So I find it a little bit risky, and I just hope that it doesn't fall at some point. And there is interesting issue at the Node repo about licensing, because they are changing their EULA or the user terms. So because when you get lawyers involved, it kind of gets messy, and you get politics and everything. So. And this sucks. I was doing some research, npmjs.org 503, so it's like, but this is just a risk, because we depend on one service. So then you get this. But of course, if you're smart, you can kind of use solutions that allow you to cache packages. You can avoid some of these issues by preparing first. Overall, and communities are constrained to produce designs which are copies of their structures. So this explains a lot. It's why it's so chaotic. So we have a lot of packages that are like, we have one person and lots of packages. And then we have like a couple of projects where we have like lots of people maintaining them. But it's what it is. And as a result, we have these dinosaurs. We have like T-Rex and the big one and small ones and the humans and everything. Packages of all shapes and sizes, but I think the direction is that we'll end up with lots of small packages. At least if you look at what happened to Babel, at first Babel was this big dinosaur, Babel 5, and then they split it up. So we ended up with a lot of smaller ones. So it seems like that's the direction. I did some queries, and we have lots of boilerplates. So it seems like people they look out for a good boilerplate, and they're like, no, this sucks, I'll make my own. And then we have one more boilerplate, so it's like, but we actually have a big issue with boilerplates, because let's say you have a good boilerplate, you start project, and you write code, and then you update the boilerplate, and at some point you have to update the project that depends on the boilerplate. So you get these snowflake projects. I believe that at some point, during this year, we get better solutions. We get tooling that allows us to depend or push certain dependencies on a higher level. So instead of making these snowflakes, we push certain common dependencies upper in the hierarchy. So what this means that we have these higher level dependencies which the boilerplates use. And then we have multiple projects that point at the common dependencies. Something changes, we update the common bit, and everything is okay. So we save time. This is actually something I'm kind of working on. Frameworks, 12,000. So we have like 2,000 boilerplates and 12,000 frameworks. I don't think this makes sense, because we have more frameworks than boilerplates. So it's like, but it's like the joke is that every time you sneeze, a new framework appears. So but it's just 12,000. But toolkits, I mean 12,000, something is wrong, because if you look at, we have 30,000 libraries. I mean, this is just tag, the keyword. But where are all the toolkits? Because the way I see it, toolkit is something that fits between libraries and frameworks. And the thing with frameworks, toolkits, and libraries is that frameworks, they're like this toy here. I mean, they have these holes. You can plug new things to holes and hope it fits. But the problem is, if you try to fit some kind of thing to the hole, it doesn't fit. So it's fun up to a point. And libraries are like these Legos. So you have lots of these tiny Legos, and you build great castles. But then the problem is you have to know what kind of Legos to use. So we have something in between, which is toolkit, which is more opinionated than library. So it encapsulates a couple of libraries. So we get these toolkits which we can combine. And I think that's at least the direction for Redux, because if you have used Redux, you can see that there's a certain amount of boilerplate. So you write code you might not want to write. So we get, in the future, we get something that kind of solves this problem by providing something opinionated. And this is the fun one. I mean, it was like 15 years ago. I was studying components in context of electronics. And then we get to this day. And what I'm doing components again. So it's like you cannot get rid of components even if you get away from electronics. And now we do components in many ways, mostly of course in user interface. But this, again, the situation is different, is interesting, because we have roughly, but we have like two ways to think about it. We can kind of solve HTML through JavaScript, I mean through React or Cycle or similar, or we can solve JavaScript through HTML. So we end up with web components, the standard, or Angular or Ember. So we have like template languages. So we have like two different kind of approaches towards component thinking. From my perspective, it's going to be very interesting to see how this situation resolves. Again, some food for thought. So, I mean, why we like to do our own things? I mean, I guess this goes back to discovery, because we have lots of packages, and I bet there's something that does what you need. But the problem is it's going to be very difficult to find it. And even if you find it, how do you know it's high quality enough for you to use? But this is just something that gets worse and worse. We get more and more packages and more duplication. And I really hope that we don't end up with 100,000 boilerplates at some point, because it's not manageable. Instead of kind of doing boilerplates, maybe we should do something else. And of course, this goes back to Conway's law, the sustainability, because we have certain big projects that have single maintainer. So guess what happens when he gets or she gets fed up, or something bad happens? So then we're in a mess. So, but this is something you can kind of think about in your project. You can kind of go through your dependencies and look at the projects and figure out what's going on. Lifetime of packages. I believe that since we get more and more and faster, and people get bored, they kind of dump their packages. So we end up with a huge pile of packages at some point, out of which most are obsolete or old or useless. We might need some standards, and of course it's always better if we can use web standards instead of our own hacks. I think this is kind of describes well what's going on when we are doing web apps.
Some people like to climb mountains. I like to build planes in the air.
I grew up wanting to be on a plane, wanting to be up this high.
Sometimes the temperature up at altitude will reach 60 below. It's brisk, it's refreshing.
You never know what you're going to come across up here. Canadian geese, mallards.
Owls. These people back here, that's why I come to work. That's why I build airplanes in the sky.
We're not just building a plane here. We're building a dream.
I love this job.
I get a lot of things up here. When I look over there and I see that little kid, I look in his eyes, that's all the things I need.
Yep. Anyway, I think this kind of gets to the point, because what we are doing is it's changing all the time, and it's like if I look at the project I wrote three months ago, I have to spend some time to get it up to date, just because the world has changed so much. But this is like web development. So. Alright, let's see. This one was interesting. We have like this visualization of NPM. So what you can do is you can go all NPM with 3D, and you can surf in your browser and see that this package has those dependencies, and this package is depend on that. So you get this kind of, this is like the nucleus, and you have these little things inside it. Yeah, it will be actually really interesting to see kind of time series based on NPM's growth. So you get like small nucleus, and then it grows and grows and grows and grows, and then it doesn't fit the screen. Of course, we have some standardization going on. JavaScript 5, 2009, JavaScript 6. So we have like 6 years, and we have like this ketchup bottle effect. So it's like you get the bottle open, and suddenly everything changes. So this was really frustrating time for me, because I had to learn over 20 new features. Of course, you had to learn as well, but it's like we got a lot at once. And I think we'll kind of, the next years and this one will kind of build on this ES6, because we get new features, we can do certain things perhaps neither. In some sense, it's a little controversial, because we keep adding sugar. So we get more and more features, but sometimes I'm a little skeptical about the value they provide, because more is not always more. Of course, we have ES7 or ES 2016, like that's the right name. We got 2 features this time. So we have include, instead of doing index of, can do includes, and then we have this hugely important POV operator. And we have a long list of proposals. Just to get back to ES6 and ES7 and all this, we have Babel. So we built these Babel stores. So what this means is that we can use the future features right now. We can even use experimental features. We can implement our own features. So it's a very interesting world. And this is like the old JavaScript joke. And this just tells something about the flexibility of the language, so we can do crazy things. And of course, this is like the big thing of 2016, JavaScript goes enterprise. We have companies like IBM doing acquisitions. IBM bought Strongloop, and there was like GoDaddy bought Node.js. And I think the big guys are kind of waking up. They want their share of the pie. And of course, because vanilla JavaScript, it's great for prototyping, but when you're trying to do something serious, you kind of start missing certain things like typing. So Facebook has developed FlowType, which allows us to add types to our code base as we want. So as we know that these things must be true, or these are arrays, or these are objects, or and so on and so on. So we can add types to our code base, which makes it more resilient. And another approach is to do what Microsoft is doing with TypeScript. So we get entire language with this entire goal. So we get something more robust. But of course, typing isn't enough. We need better testing. And this is like the future, perhaps. So we get better standards WebAssembly. So maybe we can develop for web without having to write JavaScript. Yeah, again, some food for thought. Although Babel is great, it also might lead to some level of fragmentation. So what we might have again is we have these snowflake projects, each of which uses certain features of the language or certain extensions and so on. So again, it might be some kind of mess at some point in the future. And of course, when we get enterprise or big business, we get politics. And I think the old story is that we had in Finland, we had Swamp, Jussi, and refactoring tool. And then Jussi made the field and he made this cottage. And then groupies came along. And then we had the village, and then came the politicians, and Jussi got fed up and went elsewhere. So maybe that's one way. So perhaps we lose something in the process, but that's all right. Or is it? I don't know. Especially last year showed me that we have like this huge amount of hype. So we get something big and powerful, and everyone has to learn it. And then we go again. So we have, it's part of technology. So we get these hype cycles. So, but of course, it also means that we get these sides. So you have to be on this side or that side. And I find it a little frustrating because we should be kind of making things together instead of fighting. Again, it might be nice if you had better standards, but standards always lag behind. So, but if you think about web development now and 10 years ago, we are far better off now than 10 years ago. We can do amazing things right now, even if the situation is a little bit chaotic at the moment. But the future is here. You just have to kind of find it. So just a little reminder, I actually published, I wrote this Server.js Webpack and React book, and I published new version today. So the idea is that you can buy it on paperback. So you get this physical paper version that goes out of date in a week, if you like. But it's like a small accomplishment for me, so good me. Yeah.